everyone, it's Rambling Hour with Lisa, Season 16, Episode 2. I was going to do this episode outside by an actual campfire, but the weather did not participate with me. It's been raining all day, and even though it just cleared up, well, I don't even know if it's clear now. It's kind of clear now. It's too late. Everything's wet. I don't have any dry wood, and so we're not doing a campfire outside. Next best place is in the dining room at the hearth, I guess it's called. The fireplace it is a real fireplace, but it's gas, and the gas isn't hooked up, so I do the next best thing and use candles or what have you. Also, I thought this is really cute. I haven't opened it before, but this is little chairs, like little seats, or you can kneel on them, like little foam things. There's 2 of those. And this wooden campfire that goes together, it's for kids. But yeah, so because my family's into camping and fires and stuff like that, I thought it would be cute for the grandkids. You got marshmallows that go on the ends of sticks which is funny because I bought this here. And I mean, I guess they can make s'mores here, but they don't have graham crackers here, so you just use different crackers. But then they have these that are like, there's another name you're supposed to use instead of Velcro now, because Velcro's a name brand. So like, what is it? Hook and something, whatever. They stick together. So it's your little s'mores. So that is my campfires. I got 3 candles. I got the fake campfire, and now here's the thing about ghost stories. They're not really ghost stories to me. I guess they are because they're about ghosts, but what I was going to say is they're not like as spooky to me as they are to some other people who think that all the stuff is just scary. At first, when you don't understand about spirits and stuff, it can be very scary. And I've always said that too, like even believing in all of this stuff and having the experiences I've had. If my grandma was sitting on the end of my bed and I woke up and she was just sitting there, I would probably, poop my pants or at least scream or something. Even, you know what I mean? There is parts of it that could seem spooky if you're not expecting it. I'm wearing my Blue October hoodie. I was going to put it inside out because I wanted to just wear a black hoodie, but I decided not to. And this is Lisa's hair. If you shower, let it dry naturally and don't put any product in it. So this is my lion's mane today. So it's funny how to other people it would look like fuzzy and unhealthy, but really that's just curly hair without any product in it. Doesn't mean it's unhealthy. Well, curly hair tends to be drier than straight hair anyways, like people with curly hair. I'm going to turn you in. Oh, sorry, I turned you down, although we could get spookier with the lighting as well. But I want to be in the shot. Right now I'm like, my elbow is on the floor. So I want to be able to sit up. But I want to be in the shot, but I want the fireplace in the shot too. But I still want it to be horizontal because that's how I do these videos. So how can I bring you closer and still be in the shot? Because if I put you higher, so I'm in it, I guess you get the fireplace, just not the cute kid campfire. And I also am trying to not get the shelf in because it kind of ruins the aesthetics of the spooky. So I want to pull you in more too. Like, I don't mind those baskets and stuff, but God, this is like a drunk person trying to drive a lawnmower. I don't know what I'm saying. Don't drive drunk. And you see my owl over there with a plant in it because we have to have a plant. So, oh my gosh. Okay, let me tilt this. I'll figure this out. Where can I put maybe just leave it like that. We're not sitting around the campfire. There's a little campfire. I don't know where to put it in front of me so that I feel like I'm sitting by a campfire while I'm telling you guys these stories. Let me see if I can put this up a little bit and then do that. So, how is everybody? What have you been up to? How has your week been? I'm going to move this way and scooch that way. I did have this like lined up sort of. I mean, I probably would have been better to just lie on the ground than, or kneel, you know what I mean? Like how I said, my hair is like crazy. I thought that once I put the hat on that it would like reduce some of the, but the hat's not big enough to reduce some of this craziness. And as I had it down like most of the day to see if it looked all right or if I should shower, but as I've had it down, it's just been getting more and more fuzzed out. So bear with me and my, I don't know. I guess it doesn't help when I kept doing that as well. I could put it back in a ponytail, but. So what have you guys been up to this week? Me, same old, working on the garden, working on the house, getting things back in order since we've been back, babysitting grandson and my nephew, because Samantha only needed me to babysit Spencer. Sorry, my brain stopped. And yeah, so I wanted to tell you also these candles that I have burning back here. The one in there has no scent, but the two down here are by my legs there. Those two are glasses. Rose, amber, and patchouli. So if you want to know what it smells like right now around here, it's rose, amber, and patchouli. I am going to push you guys back again because I want this stuff in the shop, but you don't need to be close to me unless I need to read comments. So, and then I will be back here and I will talk to you guys and tell you the stories. So we're talking about ghost stories, but not specifically ghosts. Just, I wanted to talk to you about the paranormal. The other thing that I thought when I was going to do this outside by a real fire was that I would be okay in a hoodie because it would be outside. But we're not outside and I'm like, anyways, so let's start from the beginning. Okay, I have my list so that I can tell you where it all began. And I'll try, I don't know if you guys want me to tell you these things spooky or not. They're not really, some of them are creepy, especially when I was younger. So let's dim the lights. And we'll have spooky ghost stories, all right? All right. I can't see with no light. I need my glasses. I know the first one. I'm pretty sure I know what yeah, okay, so Shadow Man in the window. So when I was really little, like 8 or younger, I used to see this shadow figure in the windows. And like in my bedroom window, I would see like a head and a shoulders. It was like a shadow. And I would see it in the window and I would like scream to my parents. I remember only screaming a few times. And one of the times that I remember screaming, I remember my mom coming in. Again, I don't know how old I was. I could have been even 4. But I remember I was wearing a nightgown. And when I was old enough to decide, I stopped wearing nightgowns because I hated like them getting, I roll a lot in my sleep. So I would always have to stand up in the middle of the night to untwist my nightgown. So as soon as I could decide what to wear for sleeping, it wasn't a nightgown. But in this memory, I remember standing up on my bed, looking out the window, because my bed was right against the wall with the window. And my mom was beside me. We were looking out, and I could see my dad and my cousin Keith out there looking around to see it, because I was screaming that there was a man at my window. So they were checking outside to make sure there's no burglars or anything. And then there was nobody out there when my dad checked. And then my dad told me that if there was a burglar, he would need a ladder to go up to the window. And it's also because that was the front of the house, like on the street. He would be less likely to do it on that window because then people would see him. And that made logical sense. Like, yeah, who's going to carry a ladder down the street? And like, it made sense to me. So I wasn't as afraid after my dad told me that. But I never forgot that I saw the shadow figure of a man. Now, growing up, I grew up Catholic. Both my parents were Catholic. My mom's mom was raised more strict Catholic than we were, and my grandma started living with us from when I was like just 10 days after my 2nd birthday. She had her 2nd stroke and she wasn't able to live on her own. She started using a wheelchair and a walker. Here it's called a Zimmer frame, like a walker. So ever since I was 2 years old, my grandma, my mom's mom, lived with us. because she was raised quite Catholic, she didn't push it on us, but she was very good at keeping our house blessed and just, keeping things at bay, I think. And then also I found out later in life that she did have abilities herself, like spiritual abilities. And I'll get into all of this with my grandma because she is one of my guides. I'll explain it all as we go in order. But I think one of the things with that spirit that I saw outside the window, which I now know was a spirit, and I don't know who it is. I still don't know who it is. I don't know if it's one of my grandpas or who it was. But I believe that my grandma had a barrier put up around our house so that spirit couldn't come in, so that they couldn't bother us. So that is one of the reasons that I saw the spirit at the window instead of inside the house. As far as memories when I was a kid, I don't remember anybody else, like any experiences like that when I was a young kid. I know that I had to go to the hospital when I was 4 for surgery on my lymph nodes. I've told you guys that before, on my neck. So I had to get lymph nodes taken out when I was 4. They were testing them to see if they were cancerous, which they weren't. But I remember being in the hospital by myself. Like, my parents were there during the day, but at night, there's only visiting hours, right? So I remember, like, during the day, like the bright, bustle of a hospital. I was never scared. I was never scared in hospitals. I still, hospitals don't bother me at all. But I remember at the end of the hallway, there was this room that was like the playroom and had toys and crafts, and that was like the visiting room too. So like if your parents came or whatever, or whoever, I think we would visit in there. And then, but I remember one time coming out of my bedroom that I was staying in the hospital and looking down the hallway at night, and it was just like, the hallway was a bit dimmer. It wasn't dark, but it was dimmer than during the day, and that light was off in that room, the playroom and stuff, and it just is interesting how it felt different than during the day. And I remember holding I had a baby doll as well with me that I brought. I still have that baby doll that I brought with me to the hospital, and it has my name written on the bum, so that in case, it went missing or I lost it in the hospital. But, so I remember standing there. So you would think, like, if anything was to happen, it would have been like something like that, being in the hospital by myself. The only other memory I have about being in the hospital at that time is I remember, like, the table that would come over the bed, that when you open it, I had a coloring book and like a little pack of crayons. And they would give me, like, they call them lollies here, but like suckers, just like on the stick, like a little lollies. Because I guess I don't know if it would, I don't think it affected this throat, but it was surgery. So, like, I'm not sure. I think I was like, at first anyways, I could only have like ice lollies, which is like a popsicle, or like little lollies or something. But I might be mistaken. I remember the lollies for sure, like the lollipops, the suckers, but. Mom says, hi, Lisa. Hi, Mommy. So, yeah, as I said, as a kid, the only real experience I had was that shadow man in the window, which, yes, was scary to me and would be scary to almost anybody. Sometimes you'll hear about shadow people being a negative thing. Sometimes people will say that it's that they're negative spirits. But in my experience, I don't think shadow people are necessarily negative. So the next thing that happened... okay, so when I was a teenager, actually, we could talk about when my grandma died, when I was, not the grandma who lived with us, but my dad's mom. She died when I was 13, and there was nothing really spooky that happened to me. I do remember my cousin had a dream the night before. I think she was the last person to talk to my grandma, because my grandma was supposed to be making her wedding cake. And then she talked to my grandma, and then she let her go, and then they went to sleep or whatever. And that night, my cousin had a dream about this clock. It was like shaped like a Bible in the living room up on the wall in my grandma's house. And she dreamt about the clock and it stopping at like 5 to 12 or something. And when we went to my grandma's house after she died, like for the funeral and stuff, that clock was stopped on 5 to 12. So we wonder if the clock stopped when my grandma died. And so I remember that my cousin got that as a gift. Like, they gave that to my cousin because of that. And the only other thing is that I remember somebody saying something about the Jesus statue. There's this huge Jesus that had his arms out and hung from these wires in the church by my grandma's house. And I remember seeing him move, like, not like drastically, but just a little bit, to the point that like that big wooden statue shouldn't move like that. And then I remember one of my older, because I was only 13, but I remember one of my older, like, adult already cousins saying something about the statue moving, and I was like, what? I remember I was lying on the couch at my grandma's house, and I, like, almost rolled off the couch and, like, faced the kitchen and said, what? I saw that Jesus statue move, too. So that happened when I was 13. Around that same age, somewhere when I was a teenager, I remember being at someone's house, and because I grew up in Canada, there's a lot of, like, indigenous, like, cultures, and they have all different types of beliefs, but I don't even remember who it was. It might be written in my journal whose house it was and who was doing it, but I was in a garage, and I remember we were doing, like, it was like a past life experience, and then they told me to stand in the middle of the room, and then just close my eyes, and I put my hands on and everything, and then whoever it was, which she was a teenager too, but it was part of her culture or whatever, that she just went in and she was telling me about a past life. And I had already known before this that I was, like, afraid of fire, like, not like this, like, not being at the campfire or anything else, but more of afraid of, like, a house burning down or being caught in a fire or something like that. While she was talking about this, my hand started burning too, like, just the sensation of burning. And like, now I know, sorry if I close my eyes, because that's me going back into, like, the memory and stuff, but now I know that you can do past life experiences on your own with, like, a guided meditation and such. You don't need someone else to be guiding it to tell you what they see. I mean, unless you're really not good at it. I can go into past lives now myself and see these things. I don't need someone else to tell me what my past life was necessarily, but she told me that in a past life, I was Indigenous myself. I don't know where I was in Canada or what's now United States or any, like, I don't know where I was in North America, but I'm almost certain it's North American. And I was female, and I was raped by the chief in, oh shoot, I have this all in my journal, but I don't remember if it was my teepee or his teepee, but he raped me, and as he was holding me down, my hand was too close to the fire, and so I have that burning sensation of my hand burning. And again, I don't remember if my hand actually burnt where it needed to be, like, you know, taken care of, or if it was just a sensation of burning. But that's one of the reasons that I had a fear of fire in this lifetime. And then also, from that rape, I had a baby, and I named the baby what would be the white man's name, like Jason. And so and I knew before that, Jason has always been my favorite name. Don't know why until this, like, that I had a baby named Jason in a previous life. So, and we can get back to him too if I have time to tell you about when he comes back up in my life. All right. So those are the things that happened when I was a kid. But then when I start getting into when I was 18, oh no, not 18, 19, this is when things start to get really serious. So, see if I don't want to miss any. Oh, also, okay, so my grandma died. My grandma who lived with us, she died when I was 18. So wait, hang on. Before that, when I knew these twins when I was a teenager. And when they were 16, I'm a year older than them, so I would have been about 17. Their mom died suddenly, and her name was Wendy, or is Wendy in this last lifetime. And so my grandma died in 1996 when I was, wait, that doesn't, so did she die? Oh yeah, so she died in 95 when I was 17, and then my grandma died in 96 when I was 18. And weirdly, when I went to the funeral home, I knew where my grandma was buried, and I thought, well, oh, this is where the twins' mom is buried. So I looked up on, like, there was this big map thing where you could see where your loved one is buried, and I knew her name, so I looked if she was around there. And weirdly, she's, like, really, this is a huge, like, it's Evergreen Memorial Park just outside of Edmonton. So if you know this place, it is a huge cemetery. Lots of gardens, as they call them, like different areas that you go to which garden your loved one is in. And weirdly, Wendy is, like, really close to where my grandma is buried. And so we would go out and see my grandma's grave like Mother's Days and stuff, and I would bring flowers out for Wendy as well. After Wendy, see, I've never told the boys this, like the twins, because I didn't think it was about them. I don't know what it was about, but like I would talk to Wendy in my head, and I didn't even know any of this spirit stuff. I didn't know that's how it worked or anything else, but I would remember like having conversations in my head with her, and I don't remember any now. I mean, like even if you ask me about conversations with my grandma while she was alive, I can't quote conversations, so I can't tell you what me and Wendy talked about, but I remember that it was just part of my life, and it was like kind of normal after she passed away that I would talk to her in my head sometimes, and now I know that's how spirit communicate to us. When people say it's all in your imagination, it basically is, even though that you're not making it up, it's in the same place that your imagination works. That's where you get like the pictures and the conversations and everything else. So Wendy, that was when I was like 17. So the next thing that happened, I was about 19 because my friend was 18, and I was about a year older than him. This is a different friend now, Sean. So in my parents' basement, there used to be a bar in my parents' basement, but when they renovated it, they took the bar out, but they kept the bar mirrors, and they used to be in a corner, like some on that wall and some on that wall, like in the corner where the bar was. But at this time, the bar mirrors were just on a flat wall. And so if I'm facing the bar mirrors like this, on the right side is a doorway to go into a bedroom. And on the left side, so this door is facing this way, and this door is facing this way on the other side of the wall. And this doorway goes to the landing and upstairs and to the laundry room or wherever. So this was my bedroom at the time. And these bar mirrors that we would face to do our hair and makeup and everything. Well, this doorway here to get to the landing and everything else, as I was doing my hair and makeup, I would see like a head like that would poke in and then go out. And as I was doing my hair and makeup or whatever, I'd look over and be like, that's weird. I didn't feel scared or anything else. I just thought like someone's playing with me. Like, what the heck? Because every time I would look, no one was there. And I'm like, somebody is like poking their head out and in. To me, I couldn't tell who it was or anything else. It just seemed like, again, like a shadow, like head, right? And so this was happening. I wasn't scared. It is what it is. After I was talking to my little sister Tina in our bedroom, in the kitchen, and she was telling me I was telling her about this, that it feels like there's like what's another name for a jester? Like somebody who's like not class clown, but just like, someone playing pranks on us and like being silly. And she said that she thought that was weird that I had that because she was sitting on her bed with her door open a bit, and where her bed was, it was close enough to the doorway that she was doing her homework or something, and then she felt like someone sprayed through the doorway onto her arm with water, and she was like, hey, and like opened the door more, and no one was there. So we're having these experiences, and I said, how about this head that kept poking out and in, how it was like sort of like a shadow, like a shadow person again. And then my cousin Sean, who was there at the time, he was going to Bible school, like he's very Catholic, very like not into ghosts and any of that kind of stuff, very like religious. He said, that is so weird, Lisa, because I saw a shadow person walk into your room. And I was like, okay, like something's going on here, because he wouldn't lie about that. We all are having these experiences. Again, at this time, I didn't know stuff about spirits and how they work, about shadow people or anything. All I know is weird things are happening and we're all experiencing them. Not too long after that, and this was within a couple months that these things were happening. Not too long after we had had that conversation, I got a phone call from a lady named Cindy. She said, hi, Lisa. I'm Sean's mom. I got your letter. I opened it. I hope you don't mind. I guess you didn't hear, but Sean was killed by a drunk driver a few months ago. So let me explain who Sean is, and then I will explain why I believe that it was Sean's spirit at our house. Me and Tina, my little sister, and her friend, was it Candace? Somebody who was camping with us. I think it might have been her friend Candace, so there was 3 of us. So I think it was me, Tina, and Candace. When we were camping, we met these guys on like quads and trikes, and they were a little bit younger than us. Well, Tina's younger than me. She's 5 years younger than me, so they were older than her but younger than me. And we were teenagers when we met. And then they were giving us rides on the back of their quad and trikes and everything else, and we kept in touch with them. Two of them were named Sean. One was named Justin, and the Sean, the one that I got to go with on the back of his quad trike and stuff, is like, he was kind of the nerdy one, like not the one that I would have thought was the cutest or whatever, but we became pen pals, and we stayed pen pals because I lived in Alberta and he lived in Saskatchewan, another province in Canada, and his dad lived in Edmonton, where I'm from, but his mom lived in Saskatchewan. So we became pen pals, and we wrote back and forth for years. And then that's why his mom said, I got your letter, I opened it, I hope you don't mind. Because if I knew he had passed away, I wouldn't be writing to him. And at that time, there wasn't like internet and things like that. He started writing his letters on the computer, like, so they would be typed out, because he said he didn't like his handwriting. So he's like one of the first people I know who would like use a computer to and print out things. But we take turns writing. So if I got his letter, then I would write back to him. So obviously it was my turn to write. The cool thing is that I always kept copies of everything I wrote. So you have the whole side of the conversation. You have my letter to him and then his letter back to me and stuff. And I'm pretty sure after, when I met Cindy, I think she gave me all my letters back, because what would she want them for? So I might have all the original letters that I wrote as well now. So anyway, Sean, he was that goofball. He was that like fun, just silly guy. One of my last experiences with him was going camping when I was already an adult, and I don't know if he was an adult yet or not, but like going camping with a boy, but it was just a friend, right? So me and him and his dad, that's who I was going camping with, and then his grandpa was out there, and it was the same lake that I would camp at when I was growing up. And then he had two other friends, Karen and I can't remember, two girls that came out from Saskatchewan that stayed with us as well, because his family had like a camping lot, so they had like a lodge there, like not a trailer, what do you call it, like a cabin and stuff there, like where it was all set up that they could go to the same spot anytime, right? So we one of the last times was that I had saw him was going camping with him there, and like I remember when it was just me and him, we were sleeping in these bunk beds, like in this room that obviously is for all the nieces and nephews, grandkids, cousins, whatever, and we were having a farting contest, and that was like how we were, just silly and fun and everything else. So it makes sense that if he was to come back as a spirit, that he would just be fun and like that. And there's a few things with why I believe that it was his spirit. Besides that finding out, so he died, all this stuff started happening around the house, and then I found out that he had died, and I think he was just trying to let us know that he had passed away. He got killed by a drunk driver. He was a designated driver that night, and he drove his friends home, and then he was the last one. It was his mom's van. And so he was on his way home. And the crazy thing is, the lady who hit him, it was the exact same make and model and color of vehicle. And it hit him head on, and they both died. The woman driving the other van, like minivan, and him. And yeah, he was only 18. When we went to his memorial service a year later, his parents split his ashes in half, and at his dad's half of the ashes were in a Harley Davidson cookie jar on the back of his dirt bike, which was really awesome. And we were able to take like a handful of ashes and then go and spread it around the lake lot wherever we wanted or whatever. And I was with my little sister Tina again, and then my like adopted sister Amber, who's like Tina's best friend. So we were there for the memorial service, which was like a year after he died. And we were sitting in this one place, and there's a lot of people there. Like I'd say at least probably around 100 people that came out for this memorial. And we were sitting in this one, like kind of like a, not a tent, but almost like an outbuilding, like think about like a big metal frame with like white plastic on it to make it into a big area where you could just sleep on the floor and everything. Like, what are those things called that people get for weddings? They rent them to have, like, where all the seats go under and stuff like that. Sort of like that. So we were sitting in this thing, and there was these girls talking, and they said something about Lisa's going to be here, and they're like, oh, really? Like, Lisa, I don't know if they said Lisa from Edmonton. Again, all these details that I have with these things, I have them all written in my journal, because I've written a journal since I was 6. But they were like, yeah, Lisa from Edmonton's going to be here, and blah, blah, blah. And then, I don't remember if they said, like, something like, oh, he was in love with her or whatever. And I was sitting there looking at my sister and stuff, and I was like, I'm Lisa from Edmonton. And they were like, oh. And then nobody would tell me anything after that. Like, my sister was like, after, she's like, oh, you should have just let them keep talking. And I was like, I know. But anyway, so theories and based on everything, what teenage boy writes back and forth to somebody, you know, like, makes that effort and actually posts the letters? Well, his mom would post them, but you know what I mean, and everything. And yeah, so it seems that he cared deeply for me, and he was one of my closest friends, even though we lived further apart. So there was a part of me that felt closer to him after he passed than before, because I knew he could be around me all the time, whereas before he was a province away. But with the stuff that happened in the house, that was like one of my first, like, real, like, ghostly experiences. But what happened after that was quite scary. So you got to remember, like I said, like, my grandma died when I was 18. She lived with us until I was about, 15 or 16. She moved out for a few years before she passed away into a lodge, like into a home, because my parents just couldn't care for her anymore as she was getting older. But most of my life she lived at our house. But she died when I was 18, and then Sean died when I was about 19. So I don't know how far after. It might not even have been a year. But after I had those experiences with Sean and I found out that he had passed away, I started having nightmares. And I know my mom's probably watching this. I can't remember if I've even told my mom this or not. But at the time, I had dated this guy, David, who we dated for only like 9 months. But while we were dating, he needed a place to live. Like, he had issues with his mom, and he needed a place to live. He talked to my parents and asked about staying at our house, and they said yes. Nobody consulted me. I didn't even know. I just found out he was, like, getting the bedroom upstairs, like, that he would be living with us. And, I mean, part of me was fine with it because he was my boyfriend, but another part of me was like, whoa, I don't know if I'm ready to live with a boyfriend. But anyways, so he lived at my parents' house. His room was upstairs. There's 3 bedrooms upstairs, and there was the one he was in. Then there was the one that's turned into an office, and then my parents' bedroom. And we had broken up when I found out about Sean, but David was still living at the house. So after I had found out about Sean, I started having nightmares. I don't remember what the nightmares were about, but they were like, I was terrified, and I never had nightmares really, like the odd nightmare growing up, but not anything like concerning, and nothing like this. I was so scared that being whatever age I was, 19 or 20 or whatever, I was sneaking upstairs, and I didn't want to wake up my parents or David because, well, David was an ex, and I didn't want to, put him in a position like, can I sleep beside you? And then my parents, I didn't want to wake them up either because I didn't want to interrupt their sleep. But I was so scared that I was sleeping in the hallway outside of their doors because I didn't know what else to do. I was just so scared. So you can imagine how scared I was when I was like that age to be able to be sleeping outside my parents' door. And I finally went to the doctor, and the doctor gave me, I don't even know what, again, it might be written in my journal what exactly the medicine was that he gave me, but he gave me some kind of medicine, and it helped the nightmares stop. So that was my first real, I think what happened is that Sean came in with good intentions to let us know that he had passed away, but he must have opened like a doorway, or it opened me up to spirit or whatever, and then I didn't know how to close it or contain it or do anything with it. So whatever the doctor gave me helped shut my body down so that I wasn't experiencing the spirits around me or whatever was happening. Also, when I said about my grandma, who I believe was keeping our house protected and everything else, without her being passed away, she probably wasn't able to put the same type of protection around our house. Or maybe I was meant to experience these things so that it could take me on my next path in life. So after Sean, okay, so nightmares after Sean. Okay, so when I lived with my sister Melody, so I moved out after I broke up with David. So let me just do my maths here. So, okay, so if I had Allison in 2004 and I was 25, so then I was 24 in 2003, 23 in 2002, 22 in 2001. That's when Breton was born. 22. So anyways, I was between 20 and 22. I think I was, 20 or 21 when I moved in with my sister Melody. And nothing scary in that house. It was like a 100-year-old house. I never felt anything scary in that house, except that in the bedroom that I had, the closet door, when you open the closet door, there was like these like pieces of wood to climb up. So the basement stairs were like this. So the thing in my closet was like that. And then there's these pieces of wood to go up to the loft, like up to the attic. I never went up in the attic. I couldn't sleep with that closet door open. I didn't like that. But I wasn't scared. But in that house, I had a dream about, lots of times I would dream about my grandma. Again, the same grandma, my mom's mom, Grandma Malone. I'll just call her Grandma Malone. That's her name, Georgiana Elizabeth Malone. I would dream about her. And then a lot of times, say she'd be sitting in the kitchen at my parents' house. And I would be like, walking by, and I'd see her just sitting there where she would normally sit while I was growing up. And I'd be like, what are you doing here? You're dead. Like, it didn't it didn't make sense. And usually that would be the end of the dream. Now I know that when spirits are coming to visit you in your dreams, they're going to try and see you in a familiar place. Like, so it'll be like your home or like somewhere that's comfortable and familiar to you and probably both of you. So it made sense that it was in my parents' kitchen, that, it was like to feel familiar and everything else. But because I wasn't like understanding that she was there to visit, it would shut down the process. So once I finally realized, actually before I even realized that you're supposed to do that, I had this dream when I lived with my sister. I don't remember what I was going through in life exactly, but I was listening to like a CD on repeat, where it would just play the songs over and over and over. I dreamt about my grandma, and in my dream, she was wearing like headphones and a Walkman, like where you put a cassette tape in. And my grandma never had a Walkman, but in my dream, she had a Walkman and headphones. And then she put the headphones on me and said, "Here, listen to this." And as she put the headphones on me, a song started, and obviously it was a song that started on my CD player on my bed. And then I woke up and listened to that song, and it was exactly what I needed in my life at that time. So I really do feel like that was like my grandma's way of giving me a message from the other side, which just reminded me of something else, but I don't know if I have it on this list. Okay, grandma in dreams. So the next experience I had was so Allison, my biological oldest, is 20. I had her in January of 2004, and I'm just going to have a sip of my water. This is when things start to get good after Allison was born. When I had her, this is my first child, I had a C-section, so I had to be in the hospital for 3 days. The first night that after I had her, this nurse came into the room at night. There's they check on you every so often, right? Which was normal. So it was nighttime. There's this older nurse who came in. I was like a bit older. She probably could have retired. That's how old she was. Like, she probably could have retired, but she obviously liked her job. And she's wearing like normal scrubs. She's a little bit chunky, not huge, just like normal, like not like skinny. I'm just giving you an idea of what she looked like. So she wasn't like skinny, but she wasn't like huge. She was just like what an older, any of us would look like when we just get older. We don't lose the weight as easily. So she came in, and I thought, and she was wearing one of these like old, like, nurse things, like, you know, when they graduate from nursing school, like the old hats, or like, I don't think it was a hat, it was like just the one that goes like just here. And I thought, oh my god, that's so cute, like how she wears like scrubs to be like up to date, but she wears her little hat thing like from when she graduated or whatever, because, you know, she's older. And like, I thought it was like really sweet. She talked to me about things. She held the baby. She helped me like latch the baby on, like for breastfeeding, and she was just helping me with the baby and everything. And like I said, she held the baby, gave the baby to me, and like we had this interaction, and that was all good and fine. The next day, during the day, I said, "Oh, is that older nurse going to be on again tonight?" And the other nurses were like, who? And then I explained what she looked like, and, you know, she's older and she wears this like thing in here, and there's nobody here who works here like that. And I was like, what? So if for anybody who's watching this that's from Edmonton or area, it was at the Royal Alexandra Hospital, like the Royal Alec, north central, Edmonton, and in the maternity ward. So I wonder if anybody else had experiences with her or not. So, I mean, obviously it could be like some crazy person who snuck in there and just wants to help people with their babies, or I don't know. But I am more likely to believe that it was somebody who used to work there, who has probably passed away and is still helping from the other side. Now, this experience, which I cannot explain, logical or spiritual, that lady was solid. That lady held the baby. That lady like touched me and gave me the baby. That lady was as real as my family is to me right now, alive. I never had experience before that or after that, to my knowledge, like in interacting with the spirit or something like that. I still cannot explain that lady, but it was really cool to think if that was a spirit, because like she was, like I said, as solid as I am to myself. So that was when Allison was born. So again, January 2004. Shortly after Allison was born, when she was about 7 months old, so when Allison was born, me and her biological father had split up, and I was living at my parents' house. So when I brought her home from the hospital, I was living at my parents' house. Shortly after that, the house next door to my parents' house, we knew the owner of it, and my parents had known him since the 80s. He was younger than them, older than me, and he'd always rented the house out, really. So the house was going up for rent again, and I thought that would be awesome. Living next door to my parents, they're close enough if I need them, but I have my own space and everything else. So I started renting that house when she was about 7 months old. Crazy thing is, because I needed a roommate, and because so all three of my biological kids have the same dad. His name is Michael. So because Michael needed somewhere to live and a roommate, because it's cheaper to live with a roommate, and so did I, we decided to move in together as friends and roommates. And we knew that it would be better for Allison to have both parents there too. We didn't know if it would work or not, but we wouldn't know if it would work unless we tried. So we tried. But I moved into the house first a few months before he did, because he was like in his other place until the lease was up. So the day that after I moved things in, the day that I went over there to like sleep there for the first time, something felt wrong and scary and just not good. And like, I remember when we first went, like the front door. So the people who lived there right before I rented it were into drugs and stuff like that. So it might have just been a bad energy that was still there. The front door was like bolted. Like they had the landlord had taken them out, but it had been bolted with these long screws, and just like maybe not just drugs, but mental illness, whatever. Like it was something. Anyways, when I went there, I had a 7-month-old baby, and I'm ready to sleep in my own place. Something was just not right, and it was so terrifying that I took her and my pillow and went out. I remember just taking her outside and setting her on my pillow in the grass. The grass was like, had dew on it, because it might have been like, say, 2 or 3 in the morning, but I had finally decided for me to go to sleep, and that's when it was like too scary and I had to leave. So I went back to my parents' house and went in the house and went back into the room that I was sleeping in before I moved out. And I only did it for one day. It was only the first night, but like that tells you how scared I was of something supernatural for me to pack up a baby and go out of the house in the middle of the night. So again, I can't explain that, but then this is the next thing that happened. So, while me and Michael were living together, we went out for dinner, and we had the baby, like Allison, in her little car seat. It's still faced backwards in the car. We went out for dinner to Swiss Chalet. It's just like a chicken place. And we were eating there, and as we were sitting there eating, I saw, Michael went to the bathroom, and it just felt like somebody like was behind him and went into the bathroom with him. And I was just like, weird, whatever. Then when we were sitting there eating and everything, it just felt like somebody else was with us. I didn't see anybody, and nobody else was actually with us. But then when we were in the car, I was driving, like it was my parents' minivan. I was driving. Michael was in the passenger seat, and Allison was in the car seat behind me so that Michael could reach back if she needed anything. And I said to him, your friend Justin, who killed himself when he was 14, so Michael was 14 as well, his best friend killed himself. I said, your friend Justin, what did he look like? Did he have, I can't remember right now what I said exactly. I'm going to go off of what I have in my memory, but again, all the details are written in my journal. But I was like, did he have like sandy blonde hair? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, yeah. And he's like pretty thin, like skinny. Yeah. And I'm like, and he wore like this and that and whatever clothes. And I was like, and does he, however I described him. And he's like, yeah. And I was like, okay, well, he's sitting behind you, playing with Allison's toys. Like, you know how on the car seat, on the handle, you could put these like bars across that had like little toys dangling from them. So in my mind and how I was feeling it, that behind Michael, sitting there next to Allison, was his friend. What I was seeing in my head was this person who I described, and he was playing with the toys with Allison. And I was like, okay, well, he's sitting behind you, like playing with toys, like, you know, don't be shocked, don't be scared, but this is what I'm feeling or sensing or imagining, whatever. This is what I was getting. So then Michael said whatever, and I was like, okay, well, he says this. And then so I was getting in my head, I was hearing whatever Justin wanted to say, and then I would say it to Michael, and then Michael would say, oh, well, tell him this or whatever. I'm like, okay, well, he said blah, blah, blah. And then it was like this conversation going through me of Justin and Michael and Justin and Michael. And remember, this is supper time. Like, well, it might have been a bit later, like 7 or 8 at night, because we were coming home from supper. But this conversation, we put Allison to bed. We went and lied in bed. Like, we were still friends. We were lying beside each other and talking. And then it just went on and on. Like, okay, well, he says this. He's like, oh, okay, well, tell him that. And I'm like, okay, well, he says this. And he's like, okay. And then it was like around 3 o'clock. I'm like, I'm exhausted. I need to go to sleep. Like, I'm sorry. This is great that you guys are talking, but I am so tired. I need to sleep. So, you know, they had to say their goodbyes, and then we went to sleep. The next day I was like, okay, like, no, that did not happen. I must have been making it up. Like, that is so weird. Like, how would I know, like, do that, or what? Like, that's just like, it's not real. And Michael was like, no, you talked about things that you wouldn't know, so it has to be real. And I was like, I don't know. That's like kind of a weird experience. I don't know what that, you know, again, I didn't understand that this is how spirits work, or even how mediums work when they talk to spirits. So I just let it be, whatever it was, kind of weird. Yeah. But not too long after that, Michael's dad had died, and I don't know the time exactly between when the thing happened with Justin, when Michael's dad died, and when this thing happened, but it was obviously after Michael's dad had died, and it was shortly after the Justin thing. But it was basically the same thing, where I don't even remember. I would have to read in my journal to see how the conversation started, or when Arnold, like, why he was there with me or whatever. But it was exactly, it was like, your dad says blah blah blah, and then Michael was like, oh, okay, well, tell him this and this and this. And I was like, he was sorry that he couldn't be a better father. He sees different, you know, sees it differently now that he's there, blah, blah, blah. And then Michael's like, okay, well, tell him blah, blah, blah. And then it just went back and forth again to the point. And again, it was like 3 a.m. and I'm like, I'm so tired. I can't keep doing this. I need to sleep. Like, I was tired because it was 3 a.m, but I was exhausted from the process as well, which now I know that it can be exhausting to do this energy work, because spirits are energy, so, you know, it's energy work. And, yeah, so Michael talked to his dad, and again, there was things that weren't relevant to me, but that they knew. So then I thought, okay, well, this is something that's happening that I don't understand. When I was pregnant with Allison, me and my mom would watch, why is my brain not working? I have books of his over there. You know, the gallery with, I can see him in my head. What's his name? Oh my gosh. John Edward. The gallery, John Edward. And it was like, he's a psychic medium where he would have, it's called the gallery, but it would be like his area with all the people seated around. And then he would go to whoever he was being called to and give them messages from their loved ones in spirit, right? So me and Mom used to watch that when I was pregnant with Allison. So I guess I knew a little bit about mediums at the time. Holy man, we're already at, this might be a longer episode because we're already at 49 minutes. Or we might have to do a part 2. So, Justin Arnold, the 100-year-old house off of White Ave. So, 100-year-old house off of White Ave. That, after I lived in that house with Michael, weirdly, so she was about 7 months old when that happened, or she's 7 or 9 months old. Allison was about, so, okay. She was born in January. I moved into that house in June, and then me and Michael ended up getting back together in October. And then 3 months later, we got pregnant with who is now Aurora. So me and Michael are back together at this point. We moved from that house. We were only there for a year or so because we were there for a couple of years. Or wait, hang on. So we moved in there when Allison was like 6 months old or whatever. And then Aurora was born, and when Aurora was turning 1, we moved to a house. So White Ave, I've told you guys about this before, I believe. It's like in Edmonton, there's like the art district, so there's a lot of pubs and bars and stuff on there, and like a lot of like, so during the day there's cafes and art stores and just artsy fartsy type folk stuff, like all that, you know, and that's where you'd have the new age stuff and like the spiritual stuff and everything else. But at night, it's just bars and, like, it's a very busy part of town. Well, we had a 100-year-old house, like, a block, like, one street off of that busy street. And it was this 100-year-old house. We had to move because David, the one who lives next door to my parents, he wanted to renovate the upstairs, like, that we were renting. And our rent was going to go from $800 to $1,600 a month if we wanted to live there after the renovations. So that was like a no-go. So we found this place off of White, and we got really cheap rent, about the same, I think about $800 a month. And this is in like, so if Aurora was turning 1, it would be in like 2006. $800 a month. We could live in this old house. The deal was, though, that this house and 2 more houses, they were going to tear them all down and build apartment buildings. So we could live in this house until they were ready to tear these down and build apartment buildings. It ended up being like around a year that we lived there. But we moved in there, and like I said, it was a 100-year-old house. It was near, also something near White Ave is the University of Alberta. So, you know, like lots of, like the campus, like with, so like uni kids living everywhere and stuff like that. So, this house was built with like they made the basement into another suite and then the upstairs. And so it was like rooms, like a lot of uni kids and stuff that were there. There's even like in the storage room downstairs, there was like, you could see by the whole internet thing, like there was like so much wiring because I guess they probably were gamers. And I mean, I found that out later. I didn't know why it was there. I didn't understand it. But anyways, in this house, we used it as a home for one family. And the bedrooms that were in the basement, we used those as our bedrooms. And the bedrooms upstairs, there was a bedroom off of the kitchen. We turned that into a dining room because the kitchen had nowhere to sit. So we just used the kitchen as a kitchen area for cooking and everything else, and used that room off of the kitchen as a dining room. And actually our fridge was in there too, so it wasn't in the way. And then there was a bedroom off the living room, and we used that as an office. And then we had our bedrooms to sleep in downstairs. So the whole downstairs was our bedroom. So you're near a really busy part of town with lots of drunk people and everything else. Your bedrooms are in the basement, and you have 2 young kids. And at this time, Michael was working out of town. So I was living by myself, basically, while he was out of town with 2 young kids in an area that was very busy. You'd think that you would be a little bit afraid. Not one day in that house was I afraid. I felt so comfortable and loved in that house. It was amazing. And again, in my head, the story I got, I was like, I feel like there was like an older couple that lived here. And I feel like it was like a farmhouse. It's like one of the original houses in this area. Feels like it was like their family home. And see, and I even like want to cry now, like thinking about this, because now I know that that was spirit telling me about this, and that it was a family home, and they wanted someone else to love this house the way they did before it got torn down. And it was, I loved that house. I loved that house, and it was so comfortable, and we felt so good there, and it was like one of the best places I've ever lived. It's torn down now, and they did build the apartments, but yeah, it was just like I said, it's like the original people who built the house or lived there wanted another family just to live there and just love the house the way they did. You know, the way that uni students probably wouldn't appreciate, right? So that was that house. And then we move on to, this is where I really start to understand spirit and everything. Now, I'm wondering if yeah, I mean, it looks like, when I have it in a list, it doesn't look like it's that much, but it probably is. So I think I'm better if I do a part 2 to this. I can just do it next weekend. Oh, well, I mean, I could do it next week. Next weekend I'm going to CrimeCon. So depending on what time I head back, CrimeCon goes till 6. So if I have to do this at 8, I might still be like, depending if I'm driving or if I'm driving or if I'm taking the train or whatever, I can still do this. Otherwise, it'll be the week after if for some reason I can't do my live next week. But I'll do a part 2 with this. So this is part 1 of my ghost experiences where we've left off the 100-year-old house. We left off in a good, comfy place, feeling warm and cozy. And the next one is not so warm and cozy. And it's in a new place as well. So, yeah, I just realized now yeah, you know, when you move into a house and you have experiences in the house, sometimes the house is haunted. So people who live in that house will have the experiences, you move out, and then the next people who move in will have experiences and everything else. Sometimes it's the people who attract the spirits. Now I'm realizing that although those people with the 100-year-old house were attached to that house, like not attached to it, they weren't stuck there. They were, they just came back to, you know, to tell me, you know, to love the house and everything. I'm seeing the fact that I had experiences in almost every house that I've lived in, so I can see what the common denominator is. Anyways, I'm going to put up with our death question. So I did bring my book here. Like I said last week, I am going to just do, so 33. We've done 33 questions now. So last week I put up question number 1. This week I'm going to do question number 2. And it is question number 2, just because we're going to go over these first 33 again, and then unless we have something else but this way everybody can get your pens and paper and you guys can work with us together. Let's get our end of life plans in order. It is question number 2. Would you like to donate any parts of your body? If so, which parts? So that's what you're going to write in your book. Which parts do you want to be a donor? In your region, is it an opt-in or an opt-out type of situation? A lot of times there was like a donor card that you would carry in your wallet, or you go online and you opt in to, you know, I would like to donate my organs. Some places they've passed a thing where you have to opt out now, so you're just automatically a donor unless you opt out. So check what it is in your area. And do you even want to donate parts? And if so, what body parts are you okay with donating? Only a couple things or all of you? And just because you want to be a donor doesn't mean that you automatically get to be a donor, because if you die and your body is not, like if you die in the hospital or where they can harvest the organs right away, like you're only dead for a couple minutes or something, then you might be able to use your organs. But if you die and they don't get you to the hospital right away, or your body's dead for too long, you won't be able to donate your organs even if you wanted to be. So that's something to not be sad about, to know that even if you really, really want to be an organ donor, depending on how you die in the situation, it might not be possible. As I said before, when my dad died, he donated his eyes. As a naive person, I thought it meant like when you donated your eyes, it was like your whole eyeball went into somebody else. And I was like, whoa, somebody's going to have like my dad's eye color and walk around with my dad's eyes. But really it's like the cornea and stuff that they use different parts of your eye. They don't actually take your eyeball out and put it in someone else. So that's something to know. So that is the question for today. And this week, just the normal things going on. I have a hospital appointment for my carpal tunnel in my wrist this week. Babysitting our grandson one of the days, art class, grocery shopping, and Steve's dad's coming up this week for football games that they're going to be going to. And then, like I said, I have CrimeCon on Sunday, which I'm really, really excited about. And I will tell you guys about it when I do my next live, whether it's next Sunday, leaving after CrimeCon, or if it's the week after. All right, so whichever time I do my next live, it'll be the part 2 to the ghost stories. All right, so I hope you guys have a good night. If you have any paranormal spooky stories that you want to share with me, you can tell me about them. If I'm allowed to share them with other people, I can keep you anonymous if you want, and it doesn't have to just be with ghosts or spirits or experiences like that. It can be aliens, cryptids, any kind of weird, unexplained situation or experience you've had. Let me know, and I would love to hear your stories just out of curiosity, and I would love to share them with other people too, because so many of us, if we share these things, will realize that we're not alone and we're not crazy, and almost everybody has some kind of unexplained experience that even if they believe in science over spirits, they still can't explain. All right, I love you guys, and we'll see you next week. Thanks for tuning in. Hey, maybe it depends. Like, I won't be able to have a real campfire next weekend either if I'm driving or on the train. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this. I love you guys, and we'll see you next week. Bye.